I'm Jennifer and welcome to Story Alive. Oh look, I see some explorers coming this way.
No!
Come. Well, everyone, this is Adam, Andrew, and Sarah. Greetings. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Yes, what is your question?
I packed the books so that we'll know which one.
That's really good. Well, my explorers, what are you searching for today?
Lion!
Whoa, you know, that reminds me of a Bible story, Daniel and the scary sleepover. Why don't you gather around and I'll tell it to you. You want to sit up? Okay, face Daddy. Sure. Okay. Things were not looking good for God's people. They had been captured and taken far from home, and now they were slaves of the king of Babylon. But God had not left his people. He was with them and he was looking after them. Bless you. Do you know what? I have a lion mask for you.
No, that one's mine.
Switch it, please.
Switch.
Sarah's green.
I'm
Okay,
green.
put your hand up. There you go. Everybody set? Okay. We'll continue. Now God made Daniel to understand lots of difficult things, so it wasn't long before the king of Babylon noticed him. King Darius liked how clever Daniel was, so he made Daniel his most important helper of all and put him in charge of lots of other helpers. But the other helpers didn't like this. They wanted the king to like them best. They wanted to get rid of Daniel. So they spied on Daniel. They tried to find things wrong with Daniel. Things they could tell the king. Things that they could, but there weren't any. None. They couldn't find anything at all. Except that there was just this one thing. Every day, 3 times a day, without fail, no matter what, Daniel went to his room, closed his door, and prayed. They smiled to themselves. Let's go to the king to make a law. No one is allowed to pray to anyone except the king. Daniel won't obey this law, and he will be punished. They were pleased with themselves for being so clever and hurried off to tell the king. The king liked their idea. He didn't know that they were tricking him, so he made it into a law. Everyone must pray only to me. If you don't, the lions will have you for dinner.
And maybe lunch.
Daniel heard this. He knew it was wrong to pray to anyone except God. He had to do what God said, whatever it cost him, even if it meant he would die. So Daniel went to his room, closed the door, and prayed. And that's just what the bad man knew Daniel would do. They skipped straight off to tell the king, "Oh, your most glittering highness, your law says, does it not, that everyone must pray to you alone, sire?" "Yes," said the king. "Oh, magisterial brightness, then correct us if we're wrong, but it would seem that Daniel is praying to God, not to you." The king was sad. He had been tricked. He didn't want to hurt Daniel, but he couldn't change his law. So he let the soldiers throw Daniel to the lions. "May your God, who you love so much, rescue you," the king said. The king went back to his palace, but he didn't sleep that night. Not a wink. He tossed and turned until finally, at the first glimmer of dawn, he leaped out of bed and straight to the den. "Daniel," he cried, "has your God rescued you?" "Yes," Daniel shouted. "God has sent an angel to close the lions' mouths."
Yeah, but then how did they eat? How could they eat something?
Well, they didn't eat Daniel.
Yeah, but could they eat any food?
And there, resting his head on Daniel's lap, just turn your lion. Turn your lion up.
Hey, guess what? How could they eat some food?
There you go. It's the biggest lion purring like a little kitten on Daniel's lap. The king brought Daniel out of the den. "Look," he said, "Daniel doesn't even have a scratch." The king made a new law. Daniel's God is the true God, the God who rescues. Pray to him instead. God would keep on rescuing his people, and the time was coming when God would send another brave hero like Daniel who would love God and do what God said, whatever it cost him, even if it meant he would die. And together they would pull off the greatest rescue the world has ever known. You ready to bow? The end. Well, what do you think? Pretty amazing, hey?
Good.
Let's take a moment and really ponder the story. Hey, come. I wonder how long Daniel had been praying to God every day, 3 times a day. I wonder how it felt when he was captured and taken from his homeland. I wonder if being in a strange land made it harder to keep up his daily prayers. I wonder how Daniel stayed so focused on God, even when it meant being thrown to the lions. Well, you guys are explorers, so you probably know a lot about staying focused on the right path, so I should be asking you. How do you make sure you follow the right path without getting lost?
With my binoculars, I find the right path and see where I must go, and I don't see the ones then.
Right? And is there something else too?
My compass!
A compass.
I see the other part. I see the other part of the track.
Yeah? And your compass. So these compasses help us know when our thoughts and feelings are focused on ourselves, like the helpers who wanted to trick Daniel and wanted the king to like them, or on God and others, which is what Daniel showed us was most important to him. And as Adam and I have been learning lately, our thoughts and feelings have a huge impact on our actions. If you want to make a compass of your own, click on the link next to the Links newsletter. So I wonder, what are some ways that we can make sure our compass is pointed to God and others instead of ourselves? Well, I think Daniel gives us a great example in the story. He practices 3 times a day, every day, through prayer. Prayer helps us keep a frown. Okay. Prayer helps us keep things in perspective and take the time to think about what's most important to God. So with that in mind, let's bow our heads and say a prayer together. Dear Lord, thank you for being with us always,
Thank you for being with us always.
no matter what life brings our way.
No matter what life brings our way.
Help us to remember you often
Help us to remember you often
and pray to you often like Daniel,
and pray to you often like Daniel.
so you can guide our thoughts and actions
So you can guide our thoughts and actions
and be focused on you instead of ourselves.
and be focused on you instead of ourselves.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us today on Story Alive. We look forward to seeing you again next Sunday. Goodbye!